It was a bright Saturday morning when the Williams family first moved into their new apartment. The mother, Lisa, her husband Marcus, and their two young kids were excited for a fresh start. The apartment wasn't big or fancy, but it was clean, cozy, and in a good neighborhood. Lisa had worked hard to find a safe place for her family. She wanted her kids to grow up in a community that was quiet and peaceful. Their landlord, Mr. Davis, seemed polite enough at first. He was an older white man, always dressed in a pressed shirt and slacks, with a slick smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. When he handed over the keys to Lisa and Marcus, he gave them a tour of the place, explaining the rules with an almost rehearsed precision. "I like my tenants to follow the rules," he said, eyeing their children who were quietly standing by. "We don't tolerate any trouble here." At the time, Lisa shrugged it off as Mr. Davis just being a strict landlord, but something about the way he looked at them, cold and calculating, made her feel uneasy. A few weeks passed, and the Williams family was settling into their new life. The kids were adjusting well to school, and Lisa was busy juggling her work as a real estate lawyer, while Marcus worked long shifts at his construction job. Everything seemed perfect. But soon, strange things started happening. One evening, as Lisa was preparing dinner, Marcus brought in a letter from Mr. Davis. "Hey, check this out," he said, frowning. The letter was a formal complaint. It claimed the Williams family was making too much noise at night, disturbing the peace of other tenants. Lisa was confused. They were a quiet family, and she couldn't think of a single time they'd made any noise past the kids' bedtime. Marcus shrugged it off. "It's probably just a misunderstanding. I'll go talk to him tomorrow." But when Marcus spoke to Mr. Davis, the landlord's response was sharp. "I've received complaints from other tenants," Mr. Davis insisted, his slick smile now gone. "You need to keep your kids under control or you'll be out of here." From then on, more letters started coming. Complaints about the garbage being placed incorrectly, accusations of them damaging property, claims that the family wasn't paying rent on time, even though Lisa made sure the rent was paid early every month. Mr. Davis began increasing the rent without warning. "I'm sure this is illegal," Lisa whispered to Marcus one night, reading through another inflated rent bill. But she didn't want to stir the pot just yet. "Maybe he's just testing us. Let's stay calm." Things escalated quickly. One rainy afternoon, while Lisa was at work and Marcus was picking up the kids from school, Mr. Davis slid a letter under their door, an eviction notice. When Lisa saw it later that evening, her heart sank. "Unpaid rent?" she muttered in disbelief. "We've never missed a payment." She immediately checked their payment records, and as she suspected, every payment was made on time. This eviction notice wasn't about missed rent. It was about something else. Marcus was furious. "That man's just looking for a reason to get rid of us," he shouted, pacing the kitchen. "He doesn't want us living here." Lisa nodded. She'd been calm up until this point, but now she knew something had to be done. She didn't reveal much of her plan to Marcus, but she had an idea. "We'll fight this," she said calmly. "Just leave it to me." The next morning, Lisa called Mr. Davis to set up a meeting, but as expected, he didn't take her seriously. He smugly repeated his accusations over the phone. "You people think you can stay here without following the rules. You can't afford to fight this in court. Just pack up and leave," he said, before hanging up abruptly. But what Mr. Davis didn't know was that Lisa wasn't just any tenant. She was a real estate lawyer with over a decade of experience. For years, she had helped families facing unlawful evictions, and now it was her own turn to take down a corrupt landlord. Lisa began gathering all the necessary documents. She printed out receipts, emails, and text messages showing the rent had been paid early every month. She collected the false complaints Mr. Davis had sent, and even spoke to some neighbors who were willing to testify that there were never any noise issues. Mr. Davis, however, continued to underestimate her. He thought Lisa was just a stay-at-home mom with no power or legal knowledge. He believed his eviction would go through without a hitch. Confident, he began spreading rumors around the building, telling other tenants that Lisa and her family were loud troublemakers who would soon be gone. The day before the court hearing, Mr. Davis even sent an email to Lisa suggesting she drop the case, adding, "It's not worth the trouble. You're not going to win. Just move out and save yourself the embarrassment." Lisa didn't respond. The day of the hearing arrived, and Mr. Davis walked into the courtroom with a smug grin, expecting to win easily. Lisa and Marcus sat calmly with their evidence, Lisa's expression unreadable. The judge called the case, and Mr. Davis strutted to the front of the room, ready to speak first. "Your Honor," he began, "this family has been nothing but trouble. Late payments, complaints from other tenants. I've tried to work with them, but it's clear they're not fit for this building." Lisa stood up, her eyes locked on Mr. Davis. "Your Honor, with all due respect, none of what Mr. Davis just said is true." Mr. Davis rolled his eyes, as if expecting a weak defense, but what came next wiped the smirk off his face. "I'm Lisa Williams," she continued, her voice steady. "I'm a real estate attorney with 10 years of experience specializing in landlord-tenant law. I've defended countless families facing unfair evictions, and today, I'm defending my own family." Mr. Davis's eyes widened in disbelief. Lisa presented the judge with copies of every payment she had made, each one on time. She explained the baseless complaints and how they started only after the family moved in. She also revealed Mr. Davis's attempts to raise the rent illegally, quoting state housing laws. The judge's tone shifted, now focusing on Mr. Davis. "Mr. Davis, it appears you have no legal grounds for this eviction. In fact, this looks more like harassment." The landlord stammered, trying to defend himself, but it was no use. Lisa continued, presenting testimonies from neighbors who confirmed there were no noise issues. Mr. Davis had no choice but to sit and listen as his lies were systematically dismantled. After reviewing the evidence, the judge ruled in favor of Lisa and her family. The eviction was thrown out, and the judge ordered Mr. Davis to pay for the family's legal fees and damages for emotional distress. But the fallout didn't stop there. News of the case spread around the neighborhood, and soon, other tenants began coming forward with their own stories of mistreatment by Mr. Davis. The once powerful landlord now faced multiple lawsuits and a ruined reputation. Back at their apartment, Lisa and her family could finally relax. Marcus hugged her tightly. "I don't know how you stayed so calm through all of this," he said with a smile. "You really are amazing." Lisa smiled back, happy that the fight was over. "I knew we'd win," she said softly. "I wasn't going to let him bully us out of our home." As the sun set on their quiet neighborhood, the Williams family sat down for dinner, knowing they had not only protected their home, but also exposed a landlord who had been getting away with discrimination for far too long. They were no longer just tenants. They were a symbol of justice.